Hi, I'm Emily Kitchens, Assistant Professor of Acting at Kennesaw State University, and thank you so much for stopping by to engage your craft a little. We're going to be talking about one of my #favorite least favorite parts of being an actor, auditioning. #sorry, not sorry. Let's just name it.
Auditions are the worst.
Alright, that's not true. It often feels like that though. Not for everybody, and if you're lucky enough to be among the folks who love auditioning, that's amazing, and ride that. And I still think you'll get a lot from our intensive here. If you are like me, auditions bring up an onslaught of the psychological, practical, logistical, spiritual. For me, the audition process can be heartbreaking at its worst and elusive at its best. Auditioning can feel hit or miss and overwhelming. I can't overemphasize this, I have attached so much self-worth to auditioning, no matter what the project is. I have given the process of auditioning so much power over me in my years as a professional actor. In the hard times, they can really be a place where I fight to the death for my self-esteem. So, I am creating a little structure. Artists, sometimes all the time, need structure. I'm creating structure to help, to guide, to work through, to create a container for all the things we feel and think and wrestle with as creatives in the vulnerable process of auditioning. A structure for an accessible way to approach auditioning as an actor. Maybe a familiar structure. How about a 5-act structure? Not to get too pedagogical over here, but you know. The Greeks invented a 5-act play structure. Lots of playwrights, like Shakespeare, screenwriters, authors, the list goes on, utilize it. The hero's journey.
It's an excellent container for a hero's journey. Act 1, you have your exposition. Sets up the story, providing any contextual background that we need to know. Act 2 is the rising action. On a simplistic level, this is the obstacles that are placed in the way of our protagonist or our hero. Act 3 is the climax. We all know the climax, the point of the highest tension. Act 4 is the falling action. It's the part of the story in which the climax has finished and you're heading to the conclusion. Act 5 is your resolution. This is the part where conflicts are resolved and loose ends are tied up. An emotional release. For our purposes in auditioning, here's our arc. Act 1, getting the audition. Act 2, prepping the audition. Act 3, doing the audition. Act 4, after the audition. Act 5, letting go of the audition.
By creating a container for our audition process in a familiar structure, we can empower ourselves in an often anxiety-ridden and maddening process. One might say, we are heroes.
Act 1, getting the audition. There are tons of ways to get auditions. If you have an agent and they find you auditions, you can find them for yourself on websites like these. Maybe you're auditioning for a college or a conservatory. You've been recommended by someone in your network. The list goes on. Congratulations! You got an audition. Yay! The possibilities, the excitement, No. What have I done? Oh gosh, I'm so stressed. How do you feel when you get an audition?
An audition? That's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm excited. But also, like, we're in a pandemic and my brain isn't working, and maybe I'm going to just do awful. So, like, I don't want to do it. No. I'm doing it. This is a great opportunity. I'm so excited.
Oh my God.
What?
I got an audition.
Oh my God, really?
Oh my God.
A plethora of emotions that are to do with our personal backstories happen when we get an audition. Bottom line, no matter who we are or what our response is vulnerable. However you feel, take a second, breathe, acknowledge what you're feeling so that you can get to work from an honest place in yourself.
How can actors not feel vulnerable at auditions? If actors were not sensitive human beings, how could they understand and connect and empathize with the characters they create? Don't deny your nerves. Acknowledge them. Then focus on the work. Act 2. Prepping the audition. First question. What am I auditioning for? Know your auditors. Auditors can include casting personnel, casting directors, producers, interns, professors, other actors. Know who's in the room. Know your audience. Know as best you can what they're looking for and what they're casting. Whether it's a casting director, an agent or manager, or even a class that you might be auditioning for, know their sensibility, their history, and their inclinations as best you can. It's a different preparation depending on what you're auditioning for. For professional auditions, again, what am I auditioning for? A specific show? A season of work? For lots of theaters and production companies to see my work? The list goes on. Each situation has its own lens for viewing actors' work, and will require you to consider your preparation a little differently in each occasion. For instance, is this a cattle call? A cattle call is a term for a big open audition with lots of other actors. In a cattle call audition, there are likely going to be a lot of actors in a given time frame. This means that these auditions are timed. Someone will be keeping time and will cut you off if you go over their time limit. Not the end of the world, but something to be mindful of. Cattle calls can happen for specific shows, for summer theater, for theater company seasons, for a city's theater companies, for specific roles that production companies are looking to cast. Cattle calls are quite common. They are quick and dirty, and usually they lead to other auditions. Which leads us to, is this an appointment audition? Am I going in to audition at a specific time slot for the director and or the theater personnel? If so, is it a general audition? Or is it for a specific role? Is the production company providing the audition material, or do I bring in my own? If they are providing the material, is it in the form of a monologue or sides? Sides are a selection from the project you're auditioning for. They're often dialogue, and you will either be given a reader, more about that later, or if you're doing the audition as a self-tape, you should find someone to read the other part, off camera. For sides auditions, prepare as best you can, Bring yourself to the role. Lots of people want to know, should I be off book? The short answer is pretty much. No harm in holding your script for appointment auditions and referring to it when you need to. But for on-camera auditions, you really should be off book. For cattle calls, you will be anyways for your monologues and/or your songs. Know the material as best you can and be confident and have the ability to be playful and free in it. For theater auditions, the creative team is looking for someone that is not only good for the part, but also a lovely human being they're going to want to work with and have in the room for a few weeks or more. Bring you at your loveliest to the room. College and conservatory auditions. These are going to be a little different from professional auditions. Auditioning for colleges and conservatories usually comes with a bunch of other stuff beyond just the audition. Collecting transcripts and letters of recommendation, writing essays, submitting applications, then add audition prep to all of that. Most schools ask for 2 contrasting contemporary monologues. Some require a classical piece. Songs too, if they're a musical theater program. Phew, it's a lot. It's never too early to start. You can begin searching for and preparing your monologues your junior year so that you have ample time. College auditions are unique also because students are not auditioning for a role. They're walking in the room saying, "This is who I am." It requires enormous confidence and bravery to trust that you are enough. Colleges don't want to see students playing a part or performing a role, generally speaking. They're looking for authenticity and a genuine expression of self. So, in choosing material, look for monologues and roles you feel at home in. Some programs will ask you to film a video pre-screen of your work. Some will ask you to come to the school to audition for faculty members of the program. Sometimes you'll go to a big general audition for lots of schools, like Georgia Thespian Conference or SETCs, and then meet with individual programs. Do your research for what programs you're interested in are requiring. Be ready to interview. More on that later. Also, check, does the program I'm interested in require auditions? Some programs, like Kennesaw State University, are non-audition programs.
It is truly a two-way street. You are auditioning this program as much as they are auditioning you. Remember, you are considering spending a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy with these people. Make sure it is mutually beneficial. Start early. Do the work. Remember, you are worthy. You are enough.
Number 1, find material that you're at home in. It feels good. It feels like you. Number 2, choose well-written material. Always. It elevates your work instantly. Number 3, do the research finding material. Spend the time. Find new work. Do the work here and enjoy learning about new writers and great pieces of art out there. Number 4, keep it short. For most auditions, err on the side of brevity. You've heard people say, I can usually tell within the first few seconds if I'll call someone back. In many auditions, that is the case. Find short and sweet material that shares some of your gifts. Number 5, trust your impulses with material. If you have an intrinsic and natural connection to the material, it's going to show. Not to mention, you will lose yourself in how much you love working on the material.
Some logistics in preparation. Choose what you're going to wear before the day of the audition. there have been countless times where I have been in a mad panic trying to figure out what I'm going to wear to the audition right before the audition. Not a great way to start the day, not a great way to start an audition process. Lay it out before you go to bed the night before. Okay, a few notes on what to wear.
I'll mention a few things about self-tapes and on-camera specifics with wardrobe later on, but for your theater auditions, upscale casual, fashionable yet comfortable is always a good bet, with the flexibility to suggest a part if you're auditioning for a specific role or time period.
For instance, if I'm auditioning for a Chekhov play set in 1890, I may wear a blouse and a long skirt. I don't have to find a dress from the period, but I am suggesting the period and giving the auditors a hand with imagining me in that period, also showing my knowledge and preparation with the play itself. If I'm auditioning for something contemporary and set in Williamsburg and New York City, I'll probably dress down, probably wear jeans and a nice t-shirt, not too busy, and maybe a flair of the hipster. Suggesting, not costuming.
Avoid busy patterns, stripes, neon bright colors, shiny jewelry, garments with distinguishable logos. These can draw attention and distract from all the work you've done on your audition. Wear clothing you feel great in, you feel at home and comfortable and free in.
I always like to have a few go-tos for cattle calls or general auditions so that I'm not having to stress too much on that and can dedicate most of my time on material preparation. Okay, headshot and resume prepped and ready to go. Headshots. Always, always, always bring them to an audition.
Your headshot should look like you. That may seem like obvious advice, but this is actually a common complaint among casting directors. Actor headshots should be formatted as in color, should have your name on it, 8 inches by 10 inches, stapled to the back of your resume. Black and white headshots are all but obsolete, so print in color. Most actors print their headshots vertically, some print horizontally. It's a matter of personal preference. Even though your headshot will be attached to your resume, it's important to have your name printed somewhere along the border of it. There's no standard font, and some actors use this as an opportunity to pick a typeface that represents their style and personality, but you want to pick something easy to read. Some actors also like to have an external white or black border framing their headshot, and your name can be printed in this border. Headshots are 8 inches by 10 inches and stapled to the back of your resume, which should then be cut to size and printed at the same size to match. You should staple your headshot and resume in 4 places, with 1 staple in each corner, in line with and about 1/4 inch away from the edges. The flat side of the staples should be on the side of the photo, while the pinchers should be on the resume side. Super specific, but good to know. You can also opt to have your resume printed directly on the back of your headshot, though many casting directors discourage this, as sometimes they prefer to be able to separate your headshot and resume if need be. Printing your resume directly on the back of your headshot can also make it more difficult to make additions and updates to your resume. Resumes. Phew, there's a lot to say about everything, but we could do a whole summer intensive on resumes. We won't get into the nitty-gritty, but make sure you have an up-to-date resume that includes your name, a working phone number, and an email address. You don't need to list a mailing address. You don't need to list your age or your birthday. If casting personnel see exactly how old you are, they may unknowingly box you in and find it a little harder to see you as a character's age if you're reading for a specific role. That's unfair, but often the case. Let your headshot and your presence in the audition, and of course your acting ability, signal what age range you fit best. Feel free to list your height and your hair color. No need to list weight. No need. Listing personal websites or links to performance reels is totally helpful. So, your credit categories can vary a little bit, but they often include theater section, film and TV section, commercials, industrial section. And under each of these categories, you'll share show titles, roles, directors, and the producing organization. Then you'll include sections for training, where you've been in school, or specialized class and workshop work. And then special skills, dialects, musical instruments, vocal ability, dance experience, anything. Act 3, the audition. The climax. Here we are. We've gotten our audition, we've prepped for audition, and we're at the audition. Be early. Give yourself space and time to get settled, feel grounded, feel ready.
Try to stay focused while being relaxed. For example, if I'm approached by someone who recognizes me or someone I know at an audition, I'll usually try to say something like, "Hi, it is so wonderful to see you. Do you have a second right after our audition times to catch up?" Kind, relaxed, but keeping my focus on the audition. Who's gonna be there when you get into the room?
Casting directors. Casting directors are the folks who give out auditions. Casting directors organize and facilitate the casting of actors for roles in film, TV, theater. This involves working closely with the director and the producer to understand their requirements and suggesting ideal artists for each role, as well as arranging and conducting interviews and auditions. Maybe their team will be in the room, an intern. They'll usually find the reader for the other part. The reader. In auditions with sides, scenes from the play or the show you're auditioning for that you've been given to prepare in advance, or a cold reading, more on that later, another person will be there to read the other characters. This could be an actor the casting office likes and knows to be reliable. It could sometimes be someone who's already been cast in a role and the director wants to see the chemistry between the two of you. Or it could be someone from the casting office. Sometimes somebody who has no acting experience. And you really have to use your imagination to connect and give a great audition in these instances. Directors. The director of the play or the show will be in the room, unless it's a pre-screen. A pre-screen is done only by the casting director to see a large pool of folks and get some good ideas for people to bring in for the director for specific projects. Sometimes you'll get called in directly by a director if you've worked with them before, they've seen you in a show, or they've seen you audition before. A good byproduct of always doing a great audition. You may not always get the part, but a good audition can set you up for being remembered and brought in for parts down the road. Playwrights. If it's a new play, often the playwright might be in the audition room to offer perspective on what they image for the role. Producers. Depending on the situation, especially in big commercial productions like Broadway, the producers of the play or show get a say in the casting process. Music directors and choreographers. If it's a musical, the music director and the choreographer will probably be there. The long and the short of it is, you could be auditioning in a room for one person or 20 people. Be prepared for any number of situations and be flexible for what ends up happening. Don't read too much into this. A good audition will pay off now or down the road. That's your focus, giving the best audition you can. And remember that all of the aforementioned folks are people. They are real live human beings with idiosyncrasies and insecurities, just like the rest of us.
In the room, self-confidence. Self-confidence. There is a difference in arrogance and self-confidence. One is useless, the other is your lifeline. Arrogance can be about being overconfident and feeling like you're the only person for the job, the best there is. We won't spend too much time discussing why that's all silly. Self-confidence, on the other hand, is about trust in yourself, believing in your own instincts, training, and life experience in your acting work. Approach your audition as if you had been cast in that role and are working on the part for the show. Casting director Jay Bender says, for those 5 or 10 minutes, you do have the part. No one else is in the room doing that part. It is yours. Own it. There's going to be a lot of situations as an actor where you're faced with insecurity. We are all the time putting ourselves into vulnerable situations. Other people are literally telling us what to do, where to stand, what to say, and how to say it. At face value, we are willingly victims of circumstance. We must find ways that we give ourselves agency, ownership, empowering ourselves. I firmly believe craft supports that. Believe you are the actor you set out to be. You always have been.
So, you're empowering yourself with self-confidence and craft as you come into the room and give your audition. Intros. Intros are as much a part of the audition as the content itself. This is your chance to share yourself, how lovely you are. Even if it's just 5 seconds at a cattle call, rehearse an energetic and warm intro. For appointments, be a little more casual. Conversation may arise a little. Don't be thrown off by that. It's a good thing. You get to know the auditors a little more and they you. Don't go on and on and on, but welcome a little dialogue at the beginning of your audition. A note about shaking hands. Everyone has something different to say about shaking hands, but especially in this new time of coronavirus, I think it's safe to assume if you go in for an appointment audition, you will not need to worry about shaking anybody's hands, and distance will be appreciated. Before all of this, a safe rule of thumb I followed was if the auditor initiated a handshake, I would go for it, but not initiate myself. Take a second to get set up for the material itself. In a cattle call audition, literally 1 second. Remember, time is of the essence. Ground yourself in a strong moment before for the character. When we talk about the moment before, we mean what literally just happened in the scene or monologue. In your mind's eye, see the other person's expression. In your mind's ear, hear the line the other person spoke right before, or experience the event that just transpired, something viscerally effective for your imagination. You give yourself a moment to be present with your preparation and grounded in a strong moment before. Then give your audition with the awareness that you are the only one in the role for these few minutes. You have done strong preparation, and you are able to make discoveries in the moment with a sense of play. This is your chance to act and do what you love today. In the fantastic book that I highly recommend, Auditioning, an Actor-Friendly Guide, longtime casting director and industry expert Joanna Merlin writes, "Here are the basic elements I think most directors look for in an audition. Number 1, concentration, the most basic and important tool for the actor. You must create and maintain your own personal auditioning space from which you exclude all else that is happening in the room apart from you and the reader. Number 2, feeling of truth. You project authenticity. Everything your character says and does is believable within the style of the play. Number 3, spontaneity. The audition happens, and you are in touch with your impulses and feelings, and you play the scene from moment to moment. Number 4, specificity. You're not acting in general or playing a mood. You have made acting choices that are particular to the scene and the character. Number 5, energy. What you do should never be static, passive, or casual. It should manifest creative energy, either inner, outer, or both. Number 6, humor. You know where it is and how to play it. Number 7, courage. You don't give a safe, neutral audition. You commit to your acting choices without inhibition and are willing to take risks. Number 8, skill. You have the technique and taste needed to deliver all of the above. A note on cold readings. The term cold reading is used for auditions at which the actor doesn't have the chance to read the material in advance. You get the material right there at the audition. They can be a myriad of experiences for actors, ranging from stressful to liberating. Expectations are certainly shifted for these instances by the auditors, but know that this can be a possibility, especially if a director wants to hear you read for another role or throw some interesting curveball to see how you deal in the room. Be transparent. If you have reading challenges like dyslexia, most directors and casting directors will appreciate the honesty and try to accommodate you. A note on interviews. Every now and then, not only limited to your college and conservatory auditions, interviews will be a part of the audition process. This is a moment to really be yourself. This is a moment when the auditors are really interested in getting a sense of who you are, apart from your resume. It always helps to have 1 or 2 questions of your own ready. If you get the inevitable, "Do you have any questions for us?" to show your interest and research into who they are. Remember, in theater, you have to work with these people for a few weeks at the least. Warm and interesting people are desirable characteristics in collaborators.
Out of the room, a note on competition. Competition. It's very natural. It's gonna happen. We can work on our relationship to it. Try to focus on you. Focus with a firm belief that you have something to offer that is unique. You are amazing and singular. Bring yourself to every part you play, every audition you do.
On-camera auditions and self-tapes. Most camera work auditions are either taped in person with the casting director, or you self-tape and send it in. On-camera auditions, you will usually be in a medium close-up, sitting or standing still. The camera is interested in what you're thinking, feeling, and wishing. Camera work versus stage work is really just about shifting the balance between your inner life and outer expression. Your acting choices and preparation can be rooted in the things we have mentioned before that directors are interested in just a smaller container. The camera loves intimacy. Natural and conversational are your friends here. Give a great focus on listening just as much as speaking, and a quality of spontaneity and improvisation are very important in camera work. For a lot of on-camera auditions, copy, text for a commercial, or sides are provided. If you're asked to film a monologue, go for something that sits easily on yourself. Choose something auditors will likely learn about your connection to the material as well as your artistic sensibility and taste. Taping the audition. Slate. Start the tape with slating. Say your name directly into the camera. Be friendly and direct about this. No need to overcomplicate.
Emily Kitchens.
Take a moment to ground yourself in the moment right before the scene begins. Breathe. Begin with a sense of ease. If you're reading with someone, place them on the other side of the camera, slightly to the right or the left. Some things to consider for your on-camera audition wardrobe. Casting director Carolyn Berry gives the following tips for what to wear and what to avoid wearing for your on-camera auditions. Choose jewel tones and rich autumn colors, except orange, yellow, and gold. Burgundy, emerald green, moss green, purple, grayish blue, denim blue are some of the warm colors that enhance skin tones, frame the face, and give it focus. Grays and browns don't enhance most skin tones and hair colors, but also do not distract. Choose shirts with collars and tops with a V-neck. They're most flattering on camera. Avoid busy patterns, stripes, bright colors, shiny jewelry, and garments with distinguishable logos. They draw attention away from your face. Avoid black, dark blue, white, beige, and light pastel colors. These colors usually reflect or soak up the light. Thus, the camera captures a dimmer-looking face. If you're playing a role where you need to wear black or white, then don't be concerned because everyone will have the same disadvantage. Red records differently on every camera, therefore it hardly ever looks like the red of the garment being worn and can appear orange, which is usually not flattering. Avoid wearing clothing that shows too much skin. And here are some excellent self-taping resources.
Act 4. After the audition. Cool down. Cool down. A lot of folks like to focus on a warm-up and the performance itself, and then once it's over, they jump back into their lives. I like to give a nod to the cool down. You've just used yourself in a pretty extreme way. Your senses were heightened, you put yourself out there, you were vulnerable and brave. Maybe you were doing something physically or vocally demanding. However you slice it, you had to be on. We are not light switches. We can't just turn off again. We're human beings. If we don't give ourselves a chance to cool down, emotions and physical aches will rear their head later. I guarantee.
Give yourself time and space to come down from the audition. Check in with yourself. I like to give myself a quick written inventory of things that went well in the room and things I'll do better next time. It is surprisingly easy to get sucked into the self-criticizing spiraling that is never ending. Just a quick, written, honest self-reflection, and that's done. Then I do something nice for myself for being brave. Maybe it's ice cream, or maybe it's calling a good friend or family member whom I know will celebrate my victory of doing it. Or maybe it's a quiet walk through a beautiful part of town, or a yoga meditation, something I know will be kind to myself and feel nourishing. Then I try to focus on other things for the rest of the day. Easier said than done, but the effort is not wasted. What is all the mental energy I often spend in worrying about what might happen with my audition. Last thing after an audition that I like to do to cool down may seem a little silly, but when I put my head on my pillow to go to bed, I quietly acknowledge that I showed up for myself today. I've done everything I could today. Callbacks. Callbacks are basically the next audition. Maybe you get one, maybe you don't. If you don't, the best advice I have is move on. There's a chance that you'll get a call in 2 weeks to come in, but don't sit around for 2 weeks being miserable and biting your fingernails. Trust me, I've been there. Try to just move on with life. That was one audition out of many, one moment, on to the next. If you do get a callback, great. That means you are seriously being considered for the role. You will get instructions from the casting director or director on how to prepare. Could be the same material, could be different. They'll let you know. It's a good idea to wear what you wore to your initial audition. Feel confident in your work. The director liked it. Often what happens in a callback is that the emotional investment changes than from the initial audition. Oh God, I really may get this part. I really want it now. This means this and this and this for my future, and on and on and on. And that's natural. Try to focus on the preparation. Go in, do the work again. Feel good that folks really liked your work. Give another great audition. It will pay off. If not by getting the role now, by getting one down the road. Thank yous. Thank yous are nice to send. Always. Not necessary, but always nice. They do not make or break getting a part, but they're a nice practice and good karma for your artistic life. You made a new artistic connection. That's something to be grateful for. Send a quick thank you note in an email to the casting office.
Act 5. Oof! Letting the audition go. The wait and the wait. Yep, it's real. Sitting by the phone, waiting to hear if you get the part. Oof, is it ever. For me, this part is a real fight. Really, truly, a fight for my soul. I can feel utterly paralyzed by needing that information. I have put so much weight on it. It is a constant practice of learning to be looser and lighter with all of this. This is truly philosophical for me.
It is shifting my perspective from being something life-changing and so huge to being just another thing. If not this, something else. It's super hard because as good empathic actors, we get invested. We just do. But this kind of attachment here is a wait. Life stops when I just wait, and life doesn't stop. A paradigm shift, truly. I literally sometimes watch this pale blue dot Carl Sagan video to remember how big this universe is and my tiny little part in it. A few other tips in letting it all go. Take classes. Keep your chops up. The dancer has the bar, the musician has their scales. As actors, we need to exercise our emotional muscles or they'll atrophy. Find mentors. They'll be there for guidance and you'll be developing a network of support. Move your body. We carry a lot of feeling in our muscles, in our bones. Move them. Feel released. Stimulate your artistic sensibilities, taking in theater and art, museums, concerts. Do things not directly related to acting or theater or art. Walk in the park, hike in the woods, take a workshop on knitting. The funny thing is, it's all related. Do something good for others. Take all of your energy, all of that anxiety, all of that pent-up frustration, and use it for good. Volunteer. You'll help others and you'll feel great. Do something creative every day. And start developing a community of support. We're all in this thing together.
And that is the conclusion. A 5-act journey. It truly is. You will hear nothing from me except it is a hero's work, a hero's journey. To do all of that preparation, to wrestle with all of that work, arming ourselves with all of that knowledge and research and craft, and then doing it, putting it all out there, sharing it, giving it, and then letting it go. Totally moving on. It is totally a life's work, a hero's work. Thank you so much for stopping by to engage your craft with me today. Stay safe, be well, be kind. Bye.